You know and I know that the incarceration rate in Racine is through the roof, especially with African American males.
Yes.
It seems like she can zero in on that and have no problem with the minority population. But when it comes down to white collar crime and who she's having cocktails with, it seems to be a problem. Am I running up the wrong road here?
Well, there's an old saying in Rome, no blush oblige, which really means is that the people who are more or less elite are in the government, and the government is the one that's supposed to hold them accountable, and they're all sitting there, on a fence, and there's no accountability.
Yeah.
And I don't think you're going to see any action on the part of the district attorney.
Okay.
If the government wants your business or your real estate, then under the Constitution and our statutes, Statute 32 of the Wisconsin statutes, has to first of all indicate that they claim a right of eminent domain.
Okay.
The second step is either to file within 2 years of the claiming of eminent domain. That's one method. Or to give the city notice under a law is called a notice statute, 893-80 of the Wisconsin statutes, which within 120 days after the city would make a claim, you have to give notice to the city as to what you wanted. That would not usually be done in this case. So we're talking about 2 years from the time that the city claims eminent domain. That's the state statute. Then it would go directly to the municipality, in this case Racine. And then there would be, appraisals and there would be what they call a jurisdictional offer. Offer is made. We will buy your real estate for X amount of dollars. Then, if there's disagreement, then a person would have a right to file a lawsuit. And that would be the 2 years which I was talking about. Then the business then would claim relocation, moving expenses, if you're a tenant, rent differential, if you're an owner, relocation, and then if there was any dispute as to any of those, you would go to court. That's a fairly simple, straightforward procedure on these eminent domain cases.
Now, how is this case coming along with those steps?
Okay, Sam Azarian's case, what happened is that he was unrepresented by counsel. They represented that the city's position was it wasn't an eminent domain case.
This was just a private sale, in other
Right, a
words.
private sale.
But the city's bringing it to him.
Yeah, the city attorney is.
That's a bit of a contradiction.
Yeah,
there,
city attorney is somehow representing a private party, which, to my knowledge, they're not in private practice. In any event, they
Okay.
so that was the first problem.
A little tipsy there.
Then Sam didn't really know what to do. So after Patrick Fagan went to the Department of Administration and they said, this is a relocation case, and said, you guys get together and see if you can agree. So then...
and who are the two guys going to get together, see if they agree?
Patrick Fagan and the city.
Okay.
Okay. Then we all know the history of that. There was no agreement on anything.
Right.
Laura Sattler, even who is the agent that is in charge of the relocation of businesses, she just said, you're not a business.
Just arbitrarily,
Yeah.
you're not
Yeah.
a
Took a little magic wand and said,
And-
hocus pocus, whatever.
And what's her position?
She's a relocation specialist.
With the state or with?
No, she's hired by
she's
the
an
state.
attorney. Okay.
No.
Right,
She was hired by the city for
Yeah.
relocation.
Right.
That's
Okay.
confirmed.
That was
Okay.
her firm.
Yeah,
okay.
Terra Venture, I think it was.
It's Terra Ventures.
Yeah.
All right, but it is a private firm. It's not.
Yeah.
She's not
Right.
speaking. as a
But she
state
was hired
representative.
by the, I consider the Racine Development Authority and the
Oh,
city
wow.
the same.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
they're the same.
Yeah.
Any event, so she was hired technically by the Development Authority to determine relocation costs. So if you're not a business, the magic wand comes out and you're entitled to nothing. Zero. Nothing. So that deals with Patrick Fagan. Then with Sam Azarian, since he sold his real estate, he didn't really sell the business. So because he sold the real estate and supposedly waived his rights for relocation, he then goes to the Department of Administration and says, I want relocation. They say, you had a voluntary sale with and sold it as a private situation, not eminent domain. And you're a tenant, but you do not have written contracts. And you've gone over the 1 year period, therefore you're entitled to nothing. So of the two people that are, Sam is affected, Mr. Olson was affected. He resolved his claim for peanuts, essentially. Now you have Sam was coming in and saying, well, gee, I have rights. Not only did you misrepresent your status to me, but now you're coming back and saying, I don't really have businesses because I only had a verbal lease with the different companies. You have to understand, there's a marina business and the wrecking business. And the wrecking business is divided into two businesses. And they're tenants.
on Sam's land.
Yes.
Right. And Sam's business
Yes.
on Sam's land.
That's
And he's
right.
expected to have a written lease with himself.
Yeah, well, there's a statute on that. There's a statute
Okay.
on that.
Wow.
In Wisconsin about that any lease more than a year has to be in writing.
Even if it's with you, between yourself.
Oh yeah.
You as the landowner.
Yeah, if
you
I'm
as
a landowner
and
we
have
have
a company on your
and we
own
have
land.
a verbal lease. Let's say I'm the landowner and you're
Okay.
the tenant.
Yeah, but
And you've rented from me for years, but I want to get rid of you. And you say, no, I have a lease. And the first question I would ask, well, is this more than a year? And if you said yes, I would say, you don't have any rights.
But here's my question, Walter.
Okay.
In Sam's case, aren't you and me the same person? You're the landowner, and I am the tenant, so I would be leasing from.
Well, they're set up as corporations,
You're right.
Sam's businesses.
Right.
So essentially, he's leasing from the business.
Right.
Okay, well, if you
Business people do that all the time.
Right.
Right. I'm just
Yeah,
saying,
yeah.
you
Okay,
can see
so-
where it could get a little sloppy with the lease,
Right,
though, because
right.
I'm essentially
he
dealing
owned a
with myself.
marina, and they're supposed to replace the marina.
Yeah.
Am I correct?
Yes.
So how do you? I mean, there's a considerable amount of money to replace a marina.
Well,
would
there
think.
you get back into the, private public that we talked about earlier. Oh no, this was not eminent domain.
Okay.
This was.
So it's like a
It's-
big shell game.
It is.
Yeah.
It's like going in
Okay.
a circle. You ever see a dog chase his tail in
Yeah.
a circle?
Hey.
That's what it is.
Okay.
So when was the complaint actually filed on behalf of Sam Azarian?
Let me see here.
Kind of run us through what's
Yeah.
taken place with that so far.
Well, this was filed on November 4th of 2019, and a
Very
motion
recent.
was filed to dismiss because of this, mainly the statute of limitations,
By the
the
city.
2 years, by the city. And we decided to amend our complaint to state fraud, that there was fraud which justified Sam in waiting more than the 2 years to file the lawsuit.
Got it.
And it sounds like if we're going to get anywhere with this suit, or you're going to,
Yeah.
it's got to involve fraud, because if otherwise, Sam has just essentially walked away from his rights anyway.
Yes. And that gets into what Sam knew, when did he know it,
Right.
how was he misled, Was he really given pamphlets to look over? Did anyone sit down with him? You know, what did he just take what the city said, that eminent domain would not apply? Did he just take it at face value? Was he reasonable in doing so? You look at his family background. This family has contributed, as I understand it. I don't live in Racine, but he's contributed a lot
it's a big name in
to the city and helped them out. Was a very good citizen.
And you could see where he could walk into something like that feeling like he was going to get a really good, fair deal because he has such stature.
I think what he thought, from what I've seen, is that although the city wouldn't gift him things, it would be fair with him because his family had been fair with him.
Right.
Kind of, you've been fair to me,
Right.
we'll shake hands on it.
Right.
That's
Old
the
school.
old school.
Yep.
Right.
So then the complaint went to the court.
Complaint went to the court,
The city filed a motion to dismiss.
and we decided to amend the complaint.
And then what happened when that got in front of the judge?
Well, there's another motion to dismiss has been filed.
Oh,
I have not seen that. It was filed like a day or so before the Thanksgiving came up.
Well,
Like Wednesday
what did the
or
judge
Tuesday.
deny?
The judge hasn't denied anything right now. You know.
Oh, I thought he had denied the motion to dismiss.
Oh, he denied it because the complaint was amended.
Oh,
So there
okay.
was a new complaint. It's still going to be, the statute of limitations is still going to be raised.
But the fraud, now how can he get past the fraud?
I don't think he will, because we can say the reason it was filed late is because you misled this man. And he didn't
Right.
know what to do, and he relied that what you said was correct when you weren't correct. You deceived him. Therefore, he could file it now.
Good.
Right.
Good, yeah.
Right. Now, I got another question.
Okay.
If you look at it from the taxpayer's position, there's $10 million spent on gravel. We got a gravel parking lot. And with that, people are going to start asking questions. How did this happen? And how did we take from a $65 million project to a gravel pit?
Getting rid of 12 businesses in the
And
meantime.
12 businesses in the
If you
meantime.
go back into the history of this case, I believe the concept was originated in 2008,
Yes.
if I'm
Right,
right.
yeah.
I think I'm right. And then nothing really started happening until 2012.
Right.
Then in 2016, the city declared that this was a, quote, public.
Right.
Machinery Row, quote, was a public project which required eminent domain.
Right. Right.
This is long after the 2014 sale by Sam Azarian
Correct.
of the property.
Correct.
So it's kind of like, you know, I got you.
Yeah. Right.
Okay?
Right.
Yeah, really it's public. But it was private in 2014, but it's public in 2016.
Right.
There was a magical moment where
Yes.
transmutation.
Right.
you know.
And but in the meantime, the taxpayers have been out $10 million plus. So
Yeah.
that's going to grow.
In the meantime, there was these 10 blind men from Hindustan,
Yeah,
just like I
exactly.
said.
But now, what's happened and what I've seen is that you've seen a lot of city officials. I mean, the head of development left, one of the city attorneys left. I mean, you find a number of people that are leaving because there is some pressure. And now with this case, bringing in a fraud part of this, I mean, it definitely takes this to another. This case now went to a different level with the fraud. Is there? I mean, you talked about a little bit earlier about the culpability of the city officials. If it moves into fraud, and say somebody comes in and says, "Hey, there's been a misappropriation of funds. There has been multiple different avenues of different fraud by omission. You know, this was you misrepresented that to the city officials." Is there culpability at that point on city officials?
There might well be, but the process of a criminal case would start usually with a law enforcement,
Okay.
the city police. Then it would go to the district attorney. And from what I understand, and I may be wrong, you can correct me.
No, you get it right.
The prosecutor, the public prosecutor, the district attorney, Ms. Hanson, has already denied prosecuting people involved in this alleged fraud.
Okay.
Am I right there?
It's, there's been a complaint. I don't know if she's
She's just refused to handle it.
yeah.
Okay.
So I think now, what would be the reason that this complaint's been sitting there 2 years, and it spells out, and it was a guy named Dennis Monte that put this complaint in, and I mean it spells it out quite well what happened. It certainly is a good guide for investigation. Why would they just let it languish out there?
Well, first of all, you have a prosecutor that has absolute immunity from any lawsuit. Okay?
Prosecutor, you're talking about
Yes,
the DA now?
the DA.
Yeah,
The
okay.
district attorney has absolute immunity from any civil matter and absolute discretion in determining whether or not to prosecute a case.
Right.
It goes law enforcement, district attorney, and a decision is made. Now, we learned, and I'm from Kenosha, we learned how the district attorney in Racine can sit on a case for 2 years and not do anything, and then get up one day and say, we're not prosecuting. That happened in the city of Kenosha involving crimes of misconduct in public office concerning I think it was a technological assistant who kind of threw his boss under the bus, and then they worked together to hack into the city police department, emails. There was a lot of hanky-panky.
Yeah.
I am not directly involved in it, but she sat on the case for like 2.5 years.
So what's her purpose of that? I mean, we look at, and I know that the incarceration rate in Racine is through the roof, especially with African American males.
Yes.
It seems like she can zero in on that and have no problem with the minority population. But when it comes down to white collar crime and who she's having cocktails with, it seems to be a problem. Am I running up the wrong road here?
Well, there's an old saying in Rome, no blush oblige, which really means is that the people who are more or less elite are in the government, and the government is the one that's supposed to hold them accountable, and they're all sitting there, on a fence, and there's no accountability.
Yeah.
And I don't think you're going to see any action on the part of the the district attorney.
Okay, well, now let's go one step further. I know there's an FBI complaint been filed. Now, how does that work? Does it work, or are they just, is there...
The FBI works with the U.S. Attorney's Office in Milwaukee, Eastern District of Wisconsin. And they have a lot of discretion, too. They can investigate it, or they can investigate and they can recommend to the attorney for the Eastern District of Wisconsin. They're appointed by the president. And the U.S. attorney of this district can say, no, I don't want to prosecute.
The advantage of that U.S. attorney, though, they won't have the local connections. They're not all sitting on that fence together.
There is much more independence,
Right.
And much more decision-making capacity. The FBI is a much more thorough agency because they investigate a lot of white-collar crime. So they're going to be a lot more thorough. They're going to have methods that the state doesn't have. Including a bevy of things like perhaps wiretapping, which doesn't happen in Wisconsin.
Right.
There's a law on it, but it doesn't happen. They're going to have rights to gain access to city books and records and bank accounts, all of these things. And if they want to pursue it, they will, and if they don't, they won't.
No, have you
Same thing.
personally been involved in federal cases at all?
I've been involved in federal criminal cases,
Yeah.
but
Well, presumably that's what this would be if it carried that far.
it would be probably a case of mail fraud, wire fraud,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe money laundering, and maybe RICO,
Okay.
federal RICO, which is a racketeering statute. where you have a pattern of activities.
Could the taxpayers make a claim? Taxpayers sue, basically taxpayers sue themselves in a way, but to clean it up, to get this kind of stuff should not happen in a community.
There could be a class action filed against the city to recoup monies. You would have to find, specific laws that would be considered violated, and then you could file a class action.
Now, Walter, for it to be of any value, like you said, we don't want to be suing ourselves. We would have to be getting people like Scott Letney and some of the people who are involved in this to pay for it.
Well, what would happen?
Is that at all possible,
No.
or do they have that immunity like you're talking about because they're employees?
They would have an immunity, so you'd have to have a private lawyer putting together a case. Wisconsin also has RICO. Putting together a case involving misconduct, double dealing, a case involving perhaps money laundering, perhaps wire fraud, perhaps mail fraud, those types of things. And it would be a taxpayer lawsuit, which the U.S. Supreme Court has reluctantly approved, and you would go from there, and you wouldn't really sue them for money, but would sue to recoup the tax monies that have been paid.
Okay.
And in a sense, who's going to replace the tax monies?
Right.
Except the very entity
Except the tax-
that you're saying is corrupt.
Right. Well,
So it's kind of circular.
yeah.
It really is.
Which gets us down to the thing. What we really want to do is clean this type of thing up. Can this suit help with that in some way? I mean, is there a way to, or is it not maybe not this suit, but a lawsuit that we can get this somehow cleaned up? Get these
I
people
think if it pans
dealt
out
with.
that Sam Azarian is correct with the fraud, I think you're going to see a lot of heads roll.
Because that's basically what we
Yeah.
just want City Hall cleaned up.
Yeah, we don't want any harm to the city.
No.
But the harm is already happened because you've had people in there who harmed the city and have harmed individuals in the way. I'm more interested. I'm glad Sam is putting this together, and maybe this is the one that'll open up and swing the doors open. But I'm really, and I think the rest of us will agree that we're looking to just get the city cleaned up to move forward. And I think that's the bottom line for most citizens.
There are a lot better ways to spend $10 million.
Yeah. See, the thing about me is, I'm a private practitioner, and I'm a sole practitioner. I would never have the resources,
Right.
in all honesty, to do it. But perhaps we're going to see some accountability in Sam Azarian's lawsuit. But it wouldn't be the same as holding them accountable personally.
Yeah.
But it could provide a climate where people like yourselves can go in and say, look here, you committed fraud. All of these examples of fraud. And what are you going to do about it?
Good. That answers
and
my
that's-
question.
yeah.
I mean, there's an
Yeah.
opening there for us to take this and take it beyond just a personal lawsuit and take it into, because it involves the community.
Oh, absolutely.
It involves more than just Sam.
Well, at the very least, it would make interesting campaign literature, eh?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I got one last thing. I
Okay.
know you
All
gotta
right.
go, Walter.
You're bleeding me. No.
We're gonna get every nickel out of you, Walter.
That's all right.
But the DNR. Now we go back to the machinery row, and during this whole process, when they took this one thing I want to bring up is that they took the holdback money for environmental, but then they converted it into this escrow account that made the interest payments on this $4.5 million loan. Mm-hmm. So this conversion from, hey Sam, you're going to give us $150,000 or $110,000 for environmental, but now after we've taken the money, we're not going to use it for environmental. We're going to convert that into an escrow account to pay interest payments. But during that period of time, that money was used for interest and Blackwell and who knows all
Got
what.
his refund back.
Yeah, everybody
Everybody
seemed to have
earnest
their
money
thumb
back,
in the,
yeah.
yeah, everybody had a,
Well, it's like a bum asking you for a couple of bucks for a meal. You know, you give him a couple of bucks and he goes and spends it on booze. I mean,
Yeah,
the city
that's
is
right,
pretty
yeah.
much that way.
Yeah,
We need
right.
it for
Good
environmental
analogy, Doc.
concerns.
It's kind of like a bad magician
Yeah.
that has a hat and a rabbit supposed to come out of it, but when you bring the hat up, there's nothing there. Or like the Cheshire Cat, where the only thing you see is its smile when it vanishes.
yeah, exactly.
But the 110,000 is interesting. On the closing statement, it just says hold back.
Yeah.
But in terms of verbal representation, it was supposed to go for environmental cleanup. Now, I'm not all that up on, the DNR necessarily in this case, but I don't know. I went there. It looks like a pile of rubble, worse than the Colosseum from ancient Rome. I mean, it's just a pile of stones.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
And really, I don't know if it's even safe in terms of dust and dirt
Yeah.
and debris. I don't know. I would be very surprised, although not much surprises me,
Yeah.
if the DNR would approve of the condition of the wasteland of Machinery Row.
Well, part of what the DNR money was supposed to go for, or one specific grant, was to create a promenade along
Yes,
the river.
yes.
So you could walk between the river and this glorious development and be proud of your city. And that is supposed to be completed on December 20th. So we're going to have a grand opening there that we're going to celebrate. We'd like you to come down if you've got time.
I'll throw a stone at you from the rubble, okay? Matter of fact, I think it would be really good to go down there and have a picture
Yeah.
of someone throwing stone in the air
Yeah.
and
pretty
saying, this is the opening of the promenade.
You might
Well,
be a guest speaker.
Yeah, well, we're going to move on to that later, but
Okay.
I guess we're getting close to
Yeah.
time. But the DNR has said, no, everything looks fine. Because I know there was an open records request, and it was like, it's totally hands off. Like, whoa, we don't see anything, we don't know anything. So we're going to move on.
Well, my
At a
opinion
different
is it looks fine in retrospect because they don't want to admit that
Yeah.
they goofed up pretty bad on that
Yeah.
one.
I don't
Anyway.
know. What is fine? That's what I would wonder. I mean,
Exactly.
have they really inspected it?
No,
That's the point.
exactly.
All right. Well, that's where we are right now with the
Yeah.
Sam Azarian lawsuit and the Machinery Row project, which is not going anywhere and not going to go anywhere. Sure appreciate you
You're welcome.
coming
You're
and
welcome.
talking to
Take
us.
care,
Walter,
guys.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Walter.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
I hope we added some kind of.
Oh, I think so.
It's up to the viewers. We hope you learned a few things
Well, I mean,
today.
I hope they learned a few things.
I think they did.
Okay.
Come back and see us next
I
Monday.
will.